Hello, I'm DV, your humble GM and player, and today we're going to be taking a look at Ironsworn by Shawn Tomkin. Ironsworn is a tabletop RPG that is designed from the ground up to be able to be played solo, and so we're going to be taking a little trip in Ironsworn today, and the name of our adventure, the name of our campaign, is called Playing God Apothecary. Now, the first thing we're going to do in this episode, we're going to call this episode 0, we are going to establish the truths for this particular Ironsworn world, and then we'll also establish our character in the world, and then we'll get started with the adventure in episode 1. So if you want to skip the building of the truths and everything like that, you can do so and just skip right on to episode 1. But if you do enjoy this type of thing, then we will be going over that together and setting up the scene for our adventure. So the first thing we're going to do is set up the truths for our world. So one of the truths that you have to set up is, where did we come from in the old world? So people traveled to the Ironlands from the old world, and you have to establish why they came here. And for us, I have chosen the second option. A sickness moved like a horrible wave across the old world, killing all in its path. Thousands fled aboard ships. However, the plague could not be outrun. On many ships, the disease was contained through ruthless measures, tossing overboard any who exhibited even the slightest symptom. Other ships were lost forever. In the end, those who survived found the Ironlands and made it their new home. Some say we will forever be cursed by those we left behind. So that is the reason why the Ironlands is populated by the Ironlanders today. So what do we know about the iron in this world we are creating? Inscrutable metal pillars are found throughout the land. They are iron gray and smooth as river stone. No one knows their purpose. Some say they are as old as the world. Some, such as the iron priests, worship them and swear vows upon them. Most make the warding sign and hurry along their way when they happen across one. The pillars do not tarnish, and even the sharpest blade cannot mark them. So we're going to use this principle of these metal pillars, and we're going to incorporate the religion that I have formulated in my mind, and we'll go into that here in just a moment. But these metal pillars will play a part in that for sure in our world. For our legacies, before the Ironlanders, before the Firstborn, another people lived here. Their ancient ruins are found throughout the Ironlands. So these Ironlanders are not the first people to have lived in these lands. Before us were the Firstborn, the elves, the giants, the fey creatures. Those are the Firstborn. But even before them, someone else was here, and they have ancient ruins throughout the Ironlands that at some point we may have to utilize, stumble across, explore. The communities. We have forged the Ironlands into a home. Villages within the havens are connected by well-trod roads. Trade caravans travel between settlements in the havens and those in outlying regions. Even so, much of this land is untamed. So we're going to take a look at the map of the world. And here is the map, not of the world, of the Ironlands. This is the map of the Ironlands here. And we are in the havens, which is kind of the settleable area of the Ironland, the most settleable, I should say. And we look at the description of the havens. You can see that it's an expansive region of forests, rivers, shrubland, and low hills. After an arduous journey and after untold losses, the first Ironlander settlers looked upon the havens as a fresh start, a relative oasis in a fierce, uncaring land. It gave them hope. So it's kind of the most settleable as far as humans are concerned. There are rolling hills and rocky bluffs, pockets of dense wood and thick with shadow, walled settlements, verdant heaths, wide rivers navigated by wary boatmen, and long, harsh winters. But overall, it is the most habitable of the Ironlands, the Havens are. And that's where our journey will begin, in a small settlement called Valemark here in the Havens. The leadership: numerous clan chiefs rule over petty domains. Most are intent on becoming the one true king. Their squabbles will be our undoing. And in particular, the leaders in my world will be theocracies. It will be a combination of priests that follow the dominant religion, and we'll talk about that here in just a moment in one of the truths. But they will also have at their disposal a kind of order, kind of like the Knights Templar in medieval time, a warrior class inside the religion that are kind of like the enforcers of the religious beliefs. And the this religious theocracy, so to speak, is not self-contained within just the Havens. It is spread throughout the Ironlands, but it's more dominant in the capital, so to speak, will be inside of the Havens, and that's the root of their power is in the Havens. For defenses, the wardens are our soldiers, guards, and militia. They serve their communities by standing sentry, patrolling surrounding lands, and organizing the defenses in times of crisis. Most have strong ties to their community. Others, called free wardens, are wandering mercenaries who hire on to serve a community or protect caravans. And in our world, the wardens are this religious warrior organization. Mysticism: magic is rare and dangerous, but those few who wield the power are truly gifted. And so in our world, magic will be a combination of mysticism and religion. We're going to tie those together. The religious priests are the quote-unquote magic users of the land, and it's rare to come across someone who uses magical abilities that is not part of this religious sect. I'm sure we'll find some outliers, but as a whole, if someone is a magic user, they are a part of this religious sect. And finally, the religion: our gods are many. They make themselves known through manifestations and miracles. Some to say they even secretly walk among us. The priests convey the will of the gods and hold sway over many communities. The only thing I am going to say about that is the metal pillars are a focal point for these religions, and usually if there is a community that has arisen, it will be in near proximity, if not surrounding a metal pillar that is used as kind of like an altar or a place of worship. And sometimes they've even built up buildings around, like they build up a temple around these metal pillars, and they've become a part of the building on the inside. And so the only thing I will say is that part where it says our gods are many, there's really, the religious sect believes there is only one God, and that is the God that they worship, the God of light. And he doesn't have a name other than the Lord of Light, the God of Light. Some people just call him the Light. Some people just call him the Lord. And that is their God. And one of the sects of people that came from the old world when they traveled to the Ironlands, there were probably, a few hundred people that brought this religion with them from the old world. It has evolved over the centuries here in the Ironlands to include these metal pillars. Originally, that wasn't part of their religious experience. And who knows what the original religious experience even was, over the centuries of oral traditions, how things manifest and transform and evolve. And so, as of today, as of the beginning of our story, this Lord of the Light is spoken to or communicated with at these pillars. You can pray to the god anywhere, of course, but if you really want to channel his power, you need to be near one of these. If you want to see one of his miracles, so to speak, you need to journey to one of these pillars. And they have found that the different pillars in different communities have a tendency to give different benefits to people who pray to the Lord of the Light. But you do have to be one of the mystics in order to channel into that power. And so that is the world that we live in. The firstborn have passed into legend. Some say the remnants of the old tribes still dwell in deep forests or high mountains. Most believe they were never anything more than a myth. So the elves, the giants, the Varu, those firstborn, they are all legends to most people. They probably, I'm going to say they do exist still, but they're deep in the wilds, high in the mountains, deep in the most untamed forests. We probably won't stumble upon them in journeys from one village to the next because they're just very rare. Most people don't even believe in them. They're so rarely seen. The beasts, monstrous beasts, stalk the wild areas of the Ironlands. So, once again, just like the firstborn, we're not going to see monstrous beasts ravaging villages for the most part. The beasts will be constrained to the most wild areas of the Ironlands, and I was a little bit torn between these two choices, the ones where they also were just legends. But I'm going to say that perhaps there are groups that go out and go on a quest to hunt one of these beasts, and they come back with proof that they do in fact exist. But it is very, very rare to see the beasts. We are wary of dark forests and deep waterways, for monsters lurk in these places. In the depths of the long night, when all is wreathed in darkness, only fools venture beyond their homes, unless you are guided by the Lord of the Light. Of course, I had to throw that in there, because that is part of the religious belief in this world, is that the Lord of the Light protects you from the evils of the darkness. Okay, so that is our truths for our world, and now we're going to jump into our particular character. And I'm using this Fusaki Play Aid that I found, and I'll put a link to it in the description of this video. This is an Excel macro-enabled worksheet, so if you feel uncomfortable enabling macros on your PC due to the threat of malware, maybe you should avoid this, but it seemed like it was a legitimate thing, and so I went ahead and downloaded it. And we are going to be following the adventures of Dag of Valemark. So Dag of Valemark, he is a young man, probably 18, 19 years old, very late teens, just coming of age. His parents died when he was very, very young, and he was orphaned. And the man he now calls grandfather, took him in to raise and to teach how to live right and live true. And his grandfather isn't a particularly religious man. You know, he believes in the Lord of the Light, and like he believes in wind, and he believes in rain. He believes in the ocean. It is something that is, but he doesn't have a particular penchant for worshiping this entity, this God of Light, this Lord of the Light. So Dag definitely wasn't raised in a religious mindset. And one of the treatises of this religion, because they believe so strongly in the power of the Lord of the Light, is that medicine is outlawed. They do not allow medical treatment of any sort beyond bringing a wounded or sick, you can bandage wounds, of course, but you can't like give herbs or medicine to get over a sickness. You have to bring that person to a priest, and they will pray over them at one of these metal pillars, and generally they have good results. Generally, they can receive healing from this Lord of the Light. And so over the centuries, it probably wasn't that way in the beginning, but over the centuries, it has become more and more faux pas to use herbs and herbalism. And unfortunately, the grandfather of Dag was indeed an herbalist, an alchemist. And he and his husband, Herald, they both, live on the outskirts of Valemark. And it's kind of a well-known secret that they practice this herbalism and alchemy. And the people can come to them if they don't want to get treatment from the Lord of the Light, or they are enemies of the church, or in some way are opposed to that viewpoint for some reason, or maybe they tried to get healed by the Lord of the Light and was unable to do so, and so they sought other treatment. So Dog's grandfather, which, let's roll him a name. I don't have a name for him. Funnily enough, I had a name for his husband, Herald, but we're going to roll a Ironlander name. Here's Zahn. So the grandfather's name is Zahn. So Zahn and Herald were both alchemists in Valemark, or on the outskirts of Valemark. And unfortunately for them, they came up against the leaders of Valemark one too many times. And what the leaders of Valemark do, as the religious leaders, the first thing they do is they will give perpetrators of the crime of medicine, they will brand them, give them an actual brand on the face in the shape of a leaf. And that will let everyone know that comes across them that they are convicted criminals. They are guilty of using herbal medicine when it is strictly outlawed. And so Zahn and Herald both bear this brand. And so Dag of Valemark does not bear the brand yet, but he has been trained in the arts of herbalism and alchemy, and we'll go over his stats here in just a moment. But just to finish this little train of thought here, one of his bonds is with his grandparents, Herald and Zahn. So I'm going to switch on over to his bonds thing here, and let's see, we're going to change that to a bond, and he already has the bond with his grandparents. So we're just going to name this his grandparents, and it is a familial bond with Zahn and Herald of Valemark. Okay, so we've got the bonds with his grandparents, and we'll also say he has a bond with the community of Valemark as well. So we'll go ahead and mark that. And then over here we have his stats. So edge is quickness, agility, and prowess in ranged combat. Heart is courage, willpower, empathy, social ability, and loyalty. Iron is the physical strength, endurance, and aggressiveness, and prowess in close combat. Shadow is the sneakiness, deceptiveness, and cunning. And wits is expertise, knowledge, and observation. And the standard starting stats is 3, 2, 2, 1, 1, that you can assign these to whatever stat you want to. You can do a modified. Since this is my first Ironsworn game, I went ahead and did the modified, where I start with 4, 3, 3, 2, 2. Makes my character a little more capable, and so I wanted to make myself a little more powerful in my first journey. And so I have 4 in edge, 2 in heart, 3 in iron, 2 in shadow, and 3 in wits. And as my assets, every character gets 3 assets in the beginning, and so you can set up these assets as you wish. My assets are Herbalist, Long Arm, and Alchemist. So let's take a look at what is Herbalist. Herbalist is when you attempt to heal using herbal remedies, you have at least +1 supply, and you have at least +1 supply. Choose one, and then decide before rolling. I can either add a +2 to my roll, or on a hit, take or give an additional +1 health. And then for my next one is Long Arm. Long Arm is I wield a staff, and in your hands, a humble staff as a deadly weapon. It does 2 harm instead of 1 harm. But instead, if I want to use it as a simple weapon, which is just 1 harm, I can do strike or clash moves with plus edge instead of iron. So since I have such high edge, I most likely will be doing my strikes with a lower harm, but more likely to get good hits. And in addition to that, I get to add +1 and take +1 momentum on a hit. And we'll go over how hits work here in just a moment as well. And then finally, Alchemist. Alchemist is when you create an elixir, you can choose its effect based on the stat that you want to boost. Then you suffer a -1 supply and roll wits. On a strong hit, you create a single dose. The character who consumes the elixir must face danger, plus iron, and score hit, after which they will add +1 when making moves with the related stat until their health, spirit, or momentum fall below +1. On a weak hit, as above, but suffer an additional -1 supply to create it. So, by default, we probably won't be making potions for other characters, because in Ironsworn you don't really roll for other characters, you only roll for your character, and your character reacts to the narrative actions of other characters. So for example, if I'm in combat, I narrate what the other person does, and then my character rolls a move to react to that action. You never roll for other characters. So I'll probably only be using alchemy for myself, for my own character. I will be using some alchemy as a narrative, but I won't be using this card necessarily to do anything, because it'll just be a narrative thing, like I'm making a potion for people in the village, that kind of thing. All right, and so the way Ironsworn works, if you're not familiar with Ironsworn, you have a set of moves, and each one of these moves helps you to create your narrative. So you have adventure moves, and these are all the moves you can do in your adventures. You can check your gear, face danger, gather information, heal, make camp, reach your destination, resupply, secure an advantage, undertake a journey. You can also do asset moves. In particular, I only have one asset move, and that's alchemy. The rest of them use other moves, like long arm uses strike or clash, and the herbalist uses heal. The combat ones are battle, and that's if you want to resolve combat in one big roll, like if you have multiple people in a fight. Clash is when you're reacting to someone attacking you, typically. End the fight is if you want to end the fight. Enter the fight is if you want to start a fight. Strike is attacking someone, and turning the tide is a special where you want to, if you're not doing well and you want to kind of risk it all, you can turn the tide. Delve, I don't have Delve, so we're not going to be doing any of that stuff at the moment. It's a separate add-on you can use in Ironsworn. The quests are ways that you reach milestones in your quests. Quests are a huge part of Ironsworn, and there are multiple different kinds of quests that you can undertake, from as simple as going on a journey to as complex as I swear vengeance, and such and so forth. And then you can create new bonds, which is the relationships. You can forge a bond, test your bond, do things like that. And then suffer is when bad things happen to you. You have to do one of these in some specific way. And then down here is a nice little die roller. You can roll. The way the die rolls work in Ironsworn is you will select a move, then you will roll the dice. You'll roll 2 d10s. These are your challenge dice. And then you'll roll an action die, which is a d6, and then add in whatever appropriate modifier that you have. So for example, if you're in combat and you're going to strike, then you can use iron or edge. And I'll be using edge with my long arm skill, for example, so I would add +4 to my roll. If I rolled a 6, I would add +4 to that. That would give me a score of 10. And my challenge die in this particular case is I rolled a 10 and a 5. And so this is considered what they call a weak hit, because my score is only greater than one of the challenge dies. If it is greater than both of the challenge dies, then it is considered a strong hit. You get different occurrences happening due to that. If your score is less than both challenge die, and that's considered a miss, and typically something really bad happens. So that's the very brief rules of Ironsworn. And so the first thing we're going to do to begin our journey is we need to swear a vow, and that will be the first thing that happens in episode 1. We will follow Dag, and he will swear a vow and begin his adventures. So I hope that you enjoyed this brief overview of, brief is relative, I guess, of Ironsworn and also of our world building. And if you enjoyed it, be sure and hit that like button. It really helps the channel. Subscribe if you want to see more, and I will see you guys next time.